Okay, I believe we are up and running, so we are going to try that. So, greetings to everyone. We have a really special program for you tonight. As you can see, we're not in that tiny little room. Instead, we have 4 people with me here tonight, 2 couples, and we have air purifiers between us, so don't worry about us. We're taking care of each other, and we're all feeling well, but it's good to be with you. So tonight, we're going to be talking about missions, and I think it's so neat that we have the tree right behind us. We're in the youth room where they're trying to set the example for the youth, where they really are Christ is the vine and we are the branches. And you see the hands out there, and those are some of the kids in the youth program that put their hands on, which is a really neat thing for our youth. But the whole point is that we are really the hands of Christ in this world. And we have 4 people with us tonight that were just on a mission trip down to Lancaster. They're going to be telling us about it. But tonight I want to ask that the Currys and Phil and Debbie would introduce themselves to you tonight. So Phil and Debbie, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Phil Floyd. We've been a part of this church for probably about 25 years now, as long as we've been married. And I work on the college campuses here locally with Cru.
And I'm Debbie, and I work with Cru, but across the state in New Jersey and Baltimore. So, and I've been part of the church. Yeah. I think it was our first church we tried on a first Sunday. I think the Currys happened to be one of the first people we met. So, and then so that's cool.
And Phil also serves on the mission team here at the church, where we handle a lot of the mission funds and decide what mission trips we're going to do, and those types of things. Phil gives a lot of direction in that. Debbie, you're on the prayer team, right?
Right.
Brian and Curry. Brian Claudia Curry. I'm twisted.
Well, I just recently retired. I was a pharmacist, most recently out at Martin's, and so I'm kind of looking for a new career, a second career, if you would. And because of the pandemic, things kind of changed, and we had talked about doing some mission projects and things like that, but those all got put on hold because of the recent pandemic. So when Phil approached me about going on this mission trip, I spoke to Claudia, and then we just kind of let's do it. So we were excited to be able to do that.
It's a great start, and what a great location to do something like your first trip.
Yeah.
From what you guys have told me about it. But and Claudia, I don't know if there's any position in the church you have.
I've floated around for many years.
Even in the short time I've been here, I've seen you on a lot of different committees.
I like to keep busy, and I've been at Grace Church now. In January, it'll be 40 years.
Wow.
And it was January of 1980. I renewed my and gave my life to Christ again, and I just felt Grace was a wonderful home, and I wanted to stay here, and it's been wonderful to be here. But and I've had many opportunities to serve in so many different capacities. I'm a retired kindergarten teacher, and for a while I was working with children's ministry, and I've gone on a couple mission trips, but this one I was excited to be able to go on this, and Deb and I have been friends for a long time, and so it was just a really great trip.
Awesome.
She's not very-
Claudia's one of the first people I met because she was an SPRC. So if you hate me, blame her. She left me in.
The minute I met him, I thought, yes, he's in. I knew he was the right place.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I just love here because this church gets missions and outreach. We do so much of it, but you know what? This was one of the newer missions that we've joined, and so I'm really interested to hear all about it. Tell us about this thing you did down in Lancaster.
Well, I mean, UNTO is the humanitarian arm of Cru, or Campus Crusade for Christ. It had been known as GAIN, or Global Aid International Network. They changed their name because they were kind of getting more known in some closed countries around the world, and so this kind of rebranding gave them an opportunity to kind of fly under the radar a little bit more. And they're really committed to getting resources, physical resources that will help the spread of the gospel in some of the hardest hit places and the world. And it started in Russia in the early 90s.
Really, Russia was the first out.
Yeah. Josh McDowell had started that, and when the kind of the Iron Curtain fell, they wanted to take school supplies in for kids and clothing and things like that. And then they expanded their outreach to get into places where it's hard hit with kind of disasters, but then also really challenging places, maybe where missionaries, quote unquote, at least above ground, can't go. But if you bring in food and things that help with water and clothing and things like that, that can bring a means for churches and missionaries to be able to have kind of extend their ministry. Because people will ask the questions like, why are these people sending me food and they don't know me, they've never met me, and it's a perfect opportunity. It just opens the door.
Yeah, that is a great jump off point. You said it was caught on to. I imagine that came from Matthew 25, right?
Well, I have that right here, and as a follow-up to your sermon last Sunday, it just kind of flows right into this.
You mean people actually listen to that?
And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. And so that is really the King James version of Matthew 25, but that's where that the name comes from.
So this is sort of like a warehouse down there. And you had talked about organization a little bit when we talked.
It's a huge building. It's a facility that's just dedicated now to the program.
How large would you say this building is?
Size of Walmart?
Yeah, the size of Walmart.
It's huge. It was overwhelming.
It was. And they have many different activities that are going on. They're workstations. There's a station where they make packages of supplies for kids. They have a station where there are shoes donated, sort of like Crocs. They look a lot
Brand
like
new.
Crocs. And they said it's the reason...
Like what?
Crocs.
Croc
They're
shoes.
rubber shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that have holes in them.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean.
But the reason they provide those is because they are waterproof, but a lot of the people in Africa don't have shoes, and then they get worms and things like that going through their feet, so they need...
Oh, wow.
Yes, they need something to keep their feet safe, and the children as well. So they get those in, and Deb and I guess all of us did that.
Yeah.
We went through and examined all of them to make sure that there weren't any flaws or anything, and matched up all the pairs and boxed those
Now,
up.
are those all brand new? Or?
Everything's brand new.
Yeah, they get lots of donations. Like they had some bikes that were donated by World Vision.
I think so.
They'll get lots of donations from large companies,
even
Crocs.
bikes.
And we packed over, I think the four of us packed over I think Brian at the time counted it up, 2,000 shoes.
Pairs of shoes.
Pairs of shoes that were
2,000
donation, brand new, and then, yeah.
That's 2,000 happy feet. 4,000 happy feet.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this warehouse is it used to be a fish hatchery by the Game
Really?
Commission.
Fish
Yeah,
hatchery?
yeah, and so there were some places that had like drains in the floors, and they utilized them, because of that, because they had to have the floor drains, so they used specific things in their ministry in those areas.
That's one of the neat things about when you do these mission trips. You see things that you would never see otherwise.
Yeah.
You just you step out and just let God outdo you. You say, hey, let me go help, and then God does something that just blows your mind, and you see things. I just sometimes I pinch myself when I'm on mission trips. I think this little farm kid, is getting to see this. It's pretty awesome when you step out and do these things. But we know why we do it. We do it unto the least of these, because when we do it to them, we do it unto God.
Right.
We're doing it for Jesus. He said that's what we talked about on Sunday. I assume that's what drew you to this type of ministry.
Yeah, and I think everybody that was there gets something out of doing that. It's like, you're going to be blessing these people. You'll never see them. You'll never hear that. But at the same time, you're blessed that we're so lucky and so fortunate in this country, and we're able to give just a little bit back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the exciting things as well, is that during this time of a global pandemic, this shipping container right around Christmas is going to go full of shoes, 2,000 pairs of shoes, thousands upon thousands of meals. The church provided for 5,000 meals, a check for $500, and 10 cents a meal. A pretty amazing deal. But so nobody can go, but there are people that are in these countries, primarily in North Africa and the Middle East, some of the hardest places to reach with the gospel, but they're going to receive these supplies, and people who are in their own country, so no problems with COVID for them. I mean, and it's just a shipping container. So
What's in the meal?
it depends on the location, but we pack rice and beans. So there are some places will have rice and lentils. So it's got your protein and carbs. So it's a real balanced, healthy meal. I mean, literally. Those 5,000 meals would, one box would fill a family of 5 for a month, and we packed a pallet, which was, 30.
30 meals, which, like 30 boxes. And each box gives 144 meals per family.
Wow.
So that's like counting, a family of 5. Now, this isn't like how, we typically eat, but this is like, this is
We're
to
used to eating so much
sustain
more
them,
healthy
right.
with our French fries.
That's right.
One of my friends there that I'd worked with in different locations over the years, he'd been in the Philadelphia area quite a while I was here out in Indiana, and he told me that their director, they had been in some of these hard hit places in North Africa, and he said, this mom with 3 kids, he just asked her, how are you feeding your family? I mean, and he says, I go over to this field and I grab some grass and I boil it, throw the grass in the water and boil it, and kind of make a porridge, add a little sorghum, and just kind of make a porridge out of it. And he says, well, you're doing an amazing job, whatever you can to provide for your family. And he goes back and he says, to the people he's working with, he says, we got to do better than this. We got to help these people. We can't have this mom, trying to feed her family with some grass from a field.
From what I understand, when this is given out even in the Muslim areas or wherever it might be, it's done in the name of Jesus, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because people ask, why did you bring this? Why are you bringing me this food? Who's sending me this food? it's a great opportunity to tell people about Jesus.
Isn't it great to be able to stand in there and tell them why you do what you do? And we could do this here in Indiana as well. People say, why are you doing this? Or why are you optimistic when you're going through that? Or whatever the case is. What is it about you that's different? You're peculiar people. Very peculiar people.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you just retired. Why aren't you kicking off in your rocket ship?
Not yet.
Don't you feel sorry for people that have no purpose?
Yeah.
I mean, so many people, they work a job, and that's their whole purpose, and then they retire, and they have no purpose, and it's not a wonder so many die soon after they retire. But you've got to have a purpose in life. We were created for a purpose, and boy, there's nothing like a purpose. And that might sound a little bit like, they say that you have some messianic complex when you think, I'm serving God, like Jacob Elwood, on a mission from God. That's one of my favorite characters when I talk about missions. But is it preposterous to say I'm on a mission for God? And boy, what a feeling to say, I'm getting up this morning going off on a mission for God. I have purpose. Next month, next week, I'm going on a mission for God.
Right. We met one of our friends there. I mean, not former friend, but our friend who used to be the director in Venezuela with Cru, and now she's working with On2, and she gets to be on the other end of the trip. So, I think Brian mentioned this earlier, just not only serving God, but the joy that you get knowing, and she's on that other end of the trip when the supplies come. And one of the things that comes is glasses. They collect a lot of glasses that, eyeglasses.
Eyeglasses, huh?
And just, she talks about like just what it's like to hand kids glasses
Yeah.
and shoes.
Oh my!
And to all of a
Imagine
sudden
putting
like get to
glasses
see,
on a
yeah,
kid and they get to see
Yeah.
for the first time in a long time,
Yeah.
and maybe ever.
or yeah,
What amazing moment that would be!
yeah.
And another thing that surprised me was they had an awful lot of the medical supplies there, like wheelchairs, walkers, hospital beds. I mean, I was amazed. It's like, what do these people not have here? Because it was quite an inventory of everything.
Yeah, you get into a lot of these third world countries where walkers and animals and bikes and motorcycles and cars are all beginning to cross paths. You end up with a lot of people that need wheelchairs and crutches and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's really big. I've seen this in some of my mission journeys that you just see so many people in wheelchairs and crutches and such, and it's only because they're not used to having cars and animals and everything so
Yeah.
close to each other. So, wow. So now you said about how orderly this place was.
Well, yeah, there's so much structure to it, and there was a plan, and they had schedules designed, how many people could be safely work in one environment, and
Because
so,
you were there in the middle of COVID.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, and it's
When was the
COVID
actual
safe.
trip?
It was October 21st.
Second or I say
Somewhere in there.
22nd, 20th.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, that's kind of crazy if you guys go out during COVID.
It's very, like Claudia,
Like
wasn't
you
it
guys
like,
are really sick.
it's very COVID safe.
it was, because I'm not sure how different it was. They did give numbers of the quantities. They were extremely minimized in the number of people that they could have there, and once they hit a certain limit, they'd say, okay, nobody else is allowed to come in and work. And they had volunteers coming throughout the day, and so it was like they had to make sure that nobody, that they didn't have anybody extra, because they could actually lose the chance to continue with those services. So there was a lot of structure, a lot of planning, and they had the designated areas. There was a clothing area where you would sort clothing and divide it up as to whether it was for adults or children, and then that was packaged. And so there were sections where people would work and do those jobs. Brian and Phil got to actually bale those and
Wow.
package those, and they were huge bales.
Yeah.
About 100 pounds.
Is it with twine or with
No, it was
wire?
metal
Wire.
strips. Yeah.
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 Well, they had this machine, and they put the clothes in a box. Okay, so you would flip the box over into the compressor. Okay, and you'd put 4 boxes in there, and then it would just squeeze them down. It would take it from about 4 feet to about a foot and a half or
Yeah.
something like that. So it would get
It's
all.
vacuum packed boxes, man.
Yeah, that's right. And then they would wrap them, and then we would have to
And these
lift them
clothes are going
off.
to be worn somewhere else? Or
Yeah.
This isn't for shedding. This is for wearing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
packed
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Boy, this is something to see.
Yeah,
I'd love to see
jeans,
this.
shirts, anything like that, and that's wonderful. For a lot of people, they've got maybe one
But for
change of
shipping,
clothing.
where you save all that room in a container, you can get it a lot
Exactly.
cheaper.
And they would say the most expensive thing to ship is air.
Yeah.
And so you want, because you don't want to pay for nothing. You
Right.
want to, in that shipping
Yeah,
container, you want to
absolutely.
pack it as much as you can. Because the average shipping container that they send around the world, $27,000 to ship.
Wow.
So they want to pack it. And they want to just get everything.
Speaking of the container, it reminded me, our church helped us and Phil go down to Venice, to Puerto Rico right after the hurricanes, and this is the group that sent a container full of water filters.
Oh.
And so we actually have a young man who's now going into ministry, graduated from college there, and he
In Puerto
took
Rico.
Yes.
Puerto Rico, and one of those filters, like thousands of filters, filters. This group gave Phil and his the contacts that he has in Puerto Rico these filters, and the church was all part of sending this and has gotten to know our friends in Puerto Rico. But anyhow, one student who is now going into ministry, he had one filter. He used that in his local creek to provide water for his family for 6 months.
Wow.
And several other families also. I think
I didn't even know he did that. Yeah, Joel. So the church, a lot of people in church have gone to fix like about 4 of our students' roofs that we've known through there. They all know, some of these people. So it's kind of interesting that was the first time I ever heard of the containers and how much that was, and that was really
Debbie, that
generous.
puts such a good face on, we send dollars and we think, well, wonder whatever became of those dollars.
Right.
But that's the kind of stuff that happens, That's the cool thing about going on mission. Like, have you been in an UMCOR warehouse? Like during Katrina relief, I remember,
Right.
working at an UMCOR.
It's probably
It was amazing to see if you've lost your confidence in the goodness of people, God's people, you need to see something like this, because when you start seeing all these resources that are coming in, where people just, they gave some dollars, they didn't know where it was going, but they had trusted that somehow in the kingdom of God this would manage to do some good, and they sent it off, and you get to work and right there and see the thousands and thousands of plywood sheets, or whatever the case, there. But here you saw the food, you saw the bikes, you saw the
Clothing and I just was so impressed at how systematic everything was. And we would go in there and we were directed exactly what to do, so there was no time wasted. The only breaks that we had was they'd give us a break so we could walk around a little bit, but what they did was take us around and show us all of the other ministries that were taking place, or we watched a video about the importance of that ministry. So we were really on the job the entire time, and then after we were done the very last day, we made sure we had to clean up all the floor, sweep the floor, get everything cleaned up, clean off all the tables, and make sure everything was prepared for the next group that would come in the next week. So I walked around and I think, this place is so clean and immaculate. The floors were clean, everything was so orderly, so organized, so structured, so well planned, that and everything ran so smoothly.
This sounds like just the kind of thing that we should do again in the future, where we could get a lot more people from the church involved when it's not COVID times and all that concern, where we can load up a van and go down there
absolutely.
and spend a day there.
Didn't you say there was something coming up?
Well, there is an opportunity, kind of a shorter one like we did, a little bit shorter than what we were there for 2 nights and parts of 3 days, but they've got ones in January where there's some opportunities for we would leave early Friday morning and come back Saturday, probably late afternoon. But again, we're the same thing. We're going to pack food, we pack clothing to send to these hard hit areas. They send out a shipping container about once a month, and so they've got a schedule where these might be going to places like Central Asia, or kind of former Soviet republics that again, hard hit, in a lot of cases predominantly Muslim areas, but where the church is allowed to operate, and there's significant outreach going on, and so it's really exciting. These are places that we can't travel right now, and maybe we'd never go there, but there are people there that are ready to receive these shipping containers, and they're ready to go. They're hit the ground, nationals, trained in ministry. They're ready to say, hey, people,
networks that they've established out through there.
All throughout the world,
As the scripture teaches, some plant, some harvest. And, it doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're serving somewhere along the way. And, there's no doubt that, some will never be able to go on a mission trip with us because of physical things, or things they have to take care of because of jobs and all that stuff. But they donate toward this type of thing.
Absolutely.
And then there's others who are able to go and fill the boxes, bail the clothes,
right.
Whatever the case may be. And then there's others who are dealing with the shipping and all that, and then others that are living there on the ground that drops into their hands, and in the name of Jesus, they take it out and they give it.
Yeah.
What a process, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Paul talked about God being a God of order, and I thought about how you talked about that a little bit ago, how there's this order that, you know, so often we see chaos in our world, and every now and then you see a Christian influence like this where there's order. You know, and it's just awesome to think, you know, all these things being gathered together, then distributed all parts of the world in some orderly fashion, and you know, and as much good as possible being done.
Yeah.
And all to the glory of God.
Right.
Like,
Right.
hey, look what I did this wonderful thing. It's, no, that's not what it's all
Yeah,
about.
no one over there will ever know that you did this. You know?
I didn't sign my name. This is from Claudia.
You can have it.
Inspected by Claudia.
You do get to pray over them, though. It's really fun.
Oh,
at
yes,
different times.
Yeah.
Oh, they have prayer
Yeah,
times
tell-
around it.
Yeah,
Oh,
Around
isn't
that, yeah, when
When
they
we
have
get a pallet done,
filled.
we'd all stand around.
Everybody
Yeah.
stands and prays over the
that's
pallet.
precious.
So every shoe, and when you're packing the shoes, you're praying over it, and so that's.
I can't wait to
pretty
go
cool.
with you guys.
Yeah.
Don't you all get excited about this? I mean, I bet you're going to go with me when we go with these guys. This is cool stuff.
You mentioned COVID, but like it actually is probably one of the first things that we could plan that's kind of safe for that, because we were far apart. We had hair nets, we had masks. I mean, especially as spring comes and as things get safer, hopefully, because that's what was so fun for me, because missions has been kind of shut down for now. I mean, and it's hard. It's like, you know, when you're exercising and you don't exercise and there's no muscle. Like, I feel like, where do you give now? It's not like you can't bring your food to the church like you used to. And so this was like, our church paid for these meals, and it was just like, it just felt great that our church was doing this for people. And so it's a pretty easy mission as far as that goes, of actually doing something for people, because COVID has us all a little rusty, I guess is what I'm trying to say. At least me, you know, you don't even know if you could bring a meal to a neighbor, like whether they'll think it's germs on it, you know.
I've been wrestling the trees today and the vines and everything, you know, because we were presented with an opportunity to give toward a freezer at ICAP, which is desperately needed.
Okay.
And it's expensive, but I'm like, man, we got to find a way to be involved in this. I mean, because
wow.
we're doing it to the least, which means we're doing it to Jesus.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know, and
Right.
I want to be part of this.
Right.
So
Exactly,
we already have
yeah.
some motions made by some of the people on the committees, but we're doing it by email. But we want to make this happen as quickly as
that's
possible.
cool.
We're hoping to come up with 5,000 from the church toward this freezer,
Oh, cool.
because it's a 30,000 freezer. And, you know, we got to do our part here.
Wow,
That's a
that's
big
cool.
freezer.
But we want we've had quite a few people already step up and say, this is important enough, we want to be part of this. But, you know, and I think it's so awesome. You know, people that just wait to get to heaven, they're missing out. You know, I mean, I plan to go to heaven. You know,
Right.
that's high on my list. You know, but I want abundant living here, and I haven't discovered it anywhere else except in serving Christ.
Well, and I think that's an opportunity we have, is to be on mission with God. And we can do that, you know, right in our neighborhoods. We can do that, you know, with ICAP here locally. But then the opportunity to partner with these ministries that are doing things, you know, that will go to places we'll probably never step foot. But I mean, it's just awesome to be one link in the chain, and say, but to be on mission with God. I mean, that God's heart is for all the people, all the peoples of the world, and that, you know, that His heart is always for the, you know, He'll leave the 99 to go after that one lost sheep.
Yeah, so I have other sheep that aren't
Yeah.
in this fold yet.
Yes.
Or get them in.
Yeah.
And he was talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Brian, was this your first one? But you had done one other one before this mission trip, right?
I had never gone on one before.
Oh, okay.
So,
that
yeah.
one you were talking about doing, that one didn't play out.
Not yet.
Okay.
It's like it's on hold, like with a lot of things right
He
now.
just retired
Yeah, he
from
just
pharmacy, and he
retired.
has this ability, and
Yeah.
he wants to use that for God's glory now. And so,
Well, you know, it's interesting you mentioned about ICAP, because Dave Watkins, you know, kind of volunteered to get me to help with distributing the food, I guess twice a month, and it's mostly people from Grace that are out there helping to distribute the food and
that right?
things like that. Yeah, it's like a Tuesday and Wednesday of like the third Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. They used to have the prisoners do it, but now because of COVID, they can't let them out.
So it's either the prisoners or Jake and Elwood or you.
And me and Dave, yeah. But that's another thing that I've just recently started, helping with as well. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, I know they could always use more people out there. So
There's a slew of people get help through that.
yeah, that really opened my eyes up too, because just to see the number of people that depend on that was kind of staggering to me.
Here were some of the other people that are helping out there.
Dave Wallace was out there, Bill Wolf, Lon Lohman.
Skip Brush is,
Skip, yeah.
he helps coordinate a lot of
Helps
that.
a lot.
Yeah, and
Well, thank you guys for doing that. That's fantastic. You're changing lives. If you've ever been the recipient of something like that, I've eaten at a food bank. When I was in seminary, we started scratching the bottom of the barrel for a little bit. And, we went to the food bank and we got food, and it was a real blessing, until Beth landed a decent job. And it's like, man, we actually had cookies that week. It was pretty nice,
Yeah.
and we weren't nearly as desperate as a lot of people are that go, you're really making a difference, bigger than we can imagine. Like when you talk about this rice and beans, and that's a matter of life and death.
Absolutely.
Those,
Right. When I was, when you're talking about ICAP, when I took students to Detroit for a mission about 4 years ago, and it was interesting, the carload of students, it was who were going to serve in Detroit, but we got into this very honest conversation, and just how many of them had been hungry growing up. It was just sobering. So they're going to Detroit to minister, but they also knew what it was really like to be hungry. And I would say about at least 3 of them had experienced just being extremely hungry. And that's kids who are growing up Western Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And so that's where the ICAP and the freezer and all that is so important too.
What I really love about this idea in Lancaster is this is an opportunity to go and really plant some seed, to go out into the world, which is fairly safe, a good starter for people that have never done mission trip. If this, you always heard mission and you thought, I wouldn't go on one of those trips. Here's one you can do. This is an open door here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they'll have, Lord willing, whether it's in the summer or next fall, they'll have a little bit longer trips, about 5 days, where you can go and you can pack lots of different things and lots of opportunities there, and hear all about where these shipping containers are going, and that ministry that goes on there. And so it's really fun. But there is an opportunity, maybe even as early as January, where we can do like an overnight thing. And Lancaster's 3 hours away, and so we can get there and pack some more meals, and and who knows what else will be said.
And what's nice about it, even if you're in a situation where you need to be sitting and you can't stand for a long period of time, they accommodate you. They had stools there if you wanted to sit well. So really, if you can't stand for a long time and you can't lift heavy things, they'll accommodate you and give you a position that you can. They had one time period where they had a group of special needs adults come in, and they trained them what to do, and they packed the shoes and they kind of observed, but they had a role in it too. So really, it's something everybody can do.
Yep.
I have to be honest too, like one thing that was really good about it, which is selfish, is that with COVID, like in the spring, it would be nice to do some things like this because of the community. Like it was fun to go with friends
Yeah,
and do this,
absolutely.
even though we were like
Absolutely.
6 feet apart and looked pretty horrible.
The hairnets were
It's
really
like, you're
Never
real
worry
life
about those
people.
mission trips.
I mean, that is one of the great things about Grace mission trips. And we go, either you know people already, or you get to know them. You just have fun. I mean, while you're serving, you really get to build some relationships. You have some fun time together.
Oh,
while
yeah.
Serving. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really find you. I think of some of the mission trips I've been on, and just the crazy times we have, and people that are on the fringe of the church, and suddenly they care more about being part of the kingdom of God.
That's cool.
So how did you feel coming back from the trip? Any sore muscles?
My shoulders were sore because
Alex.
the Saturday we were lifting all these wooden boxes of clothes, and then we would pull them out and then load them
guys were
over
doing that.
onto
Yeah,
the pallets.
yeah.
And I wasn't real sore that day, but the next day I knew what I was doing.
And what about what was going on in here?
Felt good, it really did. You felt like you accomplished a little something for a minute amount of people, but you knew that you had done that.
Yeah, somebody was fed, somebody was clothed.
Well, they had pictures all around too, and even on the trucks of some of the people that were serving. And so every time you walked out, I'd look and think, we're providing something for these impoverished families. We're feeding them. We're giving them something that somebody else can't. And so it was just kind of, as you're walking out of that building and you're looking at the side of the truck, it's just a reminder that we are serving God and we're serving people and loving them with the love of Jesus. So it was kind of refreshing.
And it's really exciting to know, too, that people who know their language, who know their culture, are going to be giving them this food, but then very directly talking to them about what it means to know Jesus, and maybe giving a copy of the scriptures in their own language. And so it's just
They get a Bible given with this as well.
yeah. Well, they have access to those as God would open doors for that. Yeah. So depending on the area, there might have to be a period of time that would come before they get into deeper spiritual conversation. So
As we always say, they got to know you care before they care what you have to say.
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
right.
This is one of the reasons we're having such an incredible growth in Africa and the United Methodist Church, because the Nothing But Nets program, that, it sounded like it was just, let's just deal with the mosquito problem, and the malaria problem. But because the church was this great network, the NBA and Bill Gates and a whole
Right.
bunch of different people said, let's go to the Methodist Church because they have all these little churches out there across Africa. So they joined with our network, and all of a sudden the people said, you saved my physical life, you can help me with my soul. And so, we get requests for pastors. Like at one point, one of the tribesmen asked for 12 pastors at one shot. So we need 12 pastors because we have too many people. We need 12 pastors.
Wow.
That was new advancement of the kingdom of God because, first of all, we took care of a physical need. And that's when you do it unto the least, they start caring about you.
Yeah, but I think there are places in the Middle East. I think of one country in particular that is one of the areas in the world where the church is growing the fastest, and part of that is because of these very type of ministries where they've cared for physical needs, and the church has just exploded, and it's just it's so exciting to see.
Yeah, I think it's what James 2 is talking about. Why do you care about the rich people who walk through the door? He says, the rich people really don't want to be with you, but you do something for the poor.
Right.
You're like, I want to be with you. Isn't that funny how we are?
Yeah.
But I think what you did is great. You made a difference. The old story of the guy walking along the beach and throwing starfish back into the water. So what are you doing? There's thousands of them out here. What difference can you make? He said, I made a world of difference to that one.
Yep, that's right.
And, you know, you made a world of difference to some individuals, you know, quite a few individuals. That's a lot of meals for a month.
Actually, it's Grace that did, because that's, you know, that check
Yeah.
that the
But
missions
you
and
allowed
Grace.
us to be in mission.
Yeah.
Right.
because you
We
went.
got to bring it.
That's right. It's all
We
that
got the privilege of bringing it.
and kind of that sense of partnership. Paul talks about that partnership in the gospel, and that really is, you know, where some people go and take the trip, but other people help write the check, or, you know, do whatever, drive the van, or whatever it is to get people there. And so that
And we've
makes
seen that in microcosm in little mission trips. You know, I mean, we'll take a dozen people or 30 people, and every time it's like, man, God put all the right people on this trip. It's amazing.
Right, right.
You know, somebody can cook really well, but hates, you know, grinding a tile off the floor. But someone else that I couldn't dream of cooking. You know, and it's amazing.
You know, all different
You
kinds of
get
people.
all the people that it just is always right.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's really cool to be part of it, and you realize I'm part of something bigger than myself.
Right.
And that's, I think, what everybody needs, you know, instead of, because the most miserable people I know are people without a purpose, people who feel like there's no purpose to their lives, they're just waiting to die. It's like, what a miserable existence. I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
thank you for being in missions. You have anything else you'd like to share? Anything just burning on your heart before we go tonight?
No, I just wanted to say from the book of Colossians, we're told that whatever we do, we're to do it wholeheartedly as unto the Lord. And you know, we're all called, we're all put here for a purpose. We're all called to do something, and we're all given gifts. So do it, run with it, and serve the Lord with it, and you'll be blessed. You'll be
As
blessed.
Jesus said, you know, let your good deeds shine before men so that they might give glory to your Father in heaven. That's what we're after. So, hey, it's been great being with you. God bless you all. I hope you enjoyed this. It's even better than the Steeler game